Kvaratskhelia steadying himself! A star in the making. And there's the only goal! Sabiri with it! After 11 years, once again, Milan are the champions of Italy.
Ciao ragazzi, and welcome to another edition of Serie A Sit Down, World Football Index's podcast for your calcio to go. I'm Frank Crivello. He's Richard Carmen. Ciao, Richard.
Ciao, Frank. How are we doing on this Tuesday night?
I'm doing all right. Got through the birthday pretty unscathed. I think as you get older, it's not about going out to a bar and making a spectacle of yourself anymore. And This time, they got the March Madness with the college basketball. They got the Serie A, and all I want to do for my birthday is enjoy some Guinness and watch some calcio, watch some college basketball, because the tournament always goes hand in hand with my birthday. And I got my wish. I really didn't want to do much more than that. So,
well, chin chin.
Yes.
Cheers to you. So,
salute. I've got spotted cow in bottle form, which is a pretty good experience. I can't ship that to you. They'll all break. So,
I'm drinking a little Sierra Nevada juicy little thing IPA, hazy IPA. So, yeah, that's good.
There you go.
Good.
There you go. Always. And if you're in the chat, if you're enjoying a beverage tonight, just tell us what you're drinking. That would be good to know. We pretty packed show here tonight, Richard, and I guess we have to, since we won't be on next week, seeing that there won't be any Serie A. We'll let everybody relax and enjoy the international break, and then we can come back strong after that. But needless to say, we've got some interesting things to talk about. Two big derbies that took place on Sunday. So, Serie A did end with a bang, or go into the international break with a bang. It also went in with men behaving very, very badly on the pitch in Serie A, especially toward the end of the game. Some red cards, some people not liking what they're saying about each other's mothers. Or sisters, or whatever it might have been there between D'Ambrosio and Paredes in particular. So,
oh my goodness!
So we have those going on. We have the rest of match week 27 to talk about. We're going to give you our reaction to all of the draws in Europe. Spoiler alert: we're pretty happy with the 75% chance that a Serie A team will make the final of the Champions League. But Benfica is really damn good. So that's going to be interesting. And also, we'll talk a little Azzurri with the call-ups and get ourselves primed for Italy v. England on Thursday, kicking off qualification for the European Championships 2024, Richard. But how about we kick it off with that Derby d'Italia?
Yeah, a little bit of a big game, right? Two hated rivals there between Inter and Juventus. Inter came out with a 3-5-2 as I guess they're on the road, right? I don't even remember who was at home.
Inter was home.
Inter was home. Eduardo's here, so he can correct me too as well. Inter came out to 3-5-2, Onana in goal with back three of Darmian, De Vrij, and Acerbi. Midfield of Dumfries, Barella, Brozovic, Çalhanoğlu, and Di Marco, with Lukaku and, of course, Lautaro Martinez up top. Strong lineup, Frank. Thoughts on the back three in particular? Obviously, no Skriniar in this game. Watching the game from the sidelines, thoughts on the starting 11 for Inter?
Starting to see that a lot more now with, Darmian being part of that back three and providing some support for Dumfries. They went to that in the game at Porto. So they are comfortable with going to that as an alternative if they don't have Skriniar available to them. So that's the first thing that jumps out at you. You've got Di Marco, who can provide some service. You've got Brozovic now, who adds some more bite to that midfield. Where Çalhanoğlu was deputizing in that role, and I have to say, Çalhanoğlu has been really, really good. In the Brozovic role for Inter. Is he Brozovic? No, but has he been serviceable? Absolutely. So now you've got Brozovic now through the middle to help provide some cover, provide some protection for the back three. The role that he plays is he diffuses anything on the break, and in a game like this, you knew that Inter was going to have more of the ball, that Allegri was going to set his team up to sit back. What do we say about Inter all the time? How do you make them uncomfortable? You give them the ball. So, and Brozovic is in there to diffuse any counters that Juventus try to attempt, especially through the middle. And then you've got Lukaku trying to provide the hold-up play, Lautaro trying to move around and find room. You could really easily see going into the game where Inter were going to be able to find some opportunities.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I thought, it was a strong lineup. I was always curious about the back three. Obviously, Acerbi's been playing really well of lately. Question be, how would De Vrij handle the pressure of Vlahovic and the attack by Juventus? But overall, I think it was a good lineup for Inter. Looking at the road team, Juventus came out with a 3-5-1-1. Obviously, Tech Chesney in goal. Back three of Gatti, Bremer, and Danilo, with the midfield of Kostic, Rabiot, Locatelli, Fagioli, and De Sciglio. And then you had Sule with Vlahovic up top. Thoughts on the lineup and the insertion of Gatti in the back three. I personally liked seeing Gatti back there. I've been high on him since he's joined the team. But thoughts on the back three and then as their starting 11 as a whole.
I think Gatti's made a lot of improvements this season, and warrants this start. I mean, I think that Juventus learned the hard way against Sampdoria that you just can't play Leonardo Bonucci anymore. He's really at the end of his career. He can't defend. He can't cover. He can't. He doesn't. He's good for a long ball, and that's it. And do you really
Chiellini?
Yeah, he doesn't have Chiellini next to him to bail him out.
Or Barzali,
So, what was it back in the when it was. The Milan players were all wishing a happy birthday to Franco Baresi, the old back four, and Galli and Costa Curta, in particular in his message. Thank you for bailing me out so many times. It's just like, Bonucci needed Chiellini, kind of like Costa Curta needed Baresi a lot throughout his career. So, I thought you know exactly what you're getting with this Juventus setup. It's going to be compact. It's going to be trying to limit the chances from Inter, make them predictable, and then try to beat them going the other way.
Yeah, and this lineup scream counterattack. I thought if Zaghi was smart about it, he would have tried to force Juventus to have the possession and let themselves play on the counterattack, which they didn't, obviously. And Allegri's a master of that. He plays to his strengths, and his strengths is the counterattack, obviously, and he did that in bunches in this game. And so, two strong lineups from both these teams. A very good game all the way around. I thought, obviously, a derby that had a lot of tension. Rock fight.
A big-time rock fight.
Tension. I mean, at the end, the fireworks that were going on. Good chances early on by both teams. I mean, Barella had a great chance early on that Tech Chesney had made a great save on.
Two saves on Barella.
2 saves. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, it's 2 saves. And the first half started out with a bang. And, of course, you can't have these kind of games with any kind of controversy. In the 23rd minute, ball gets played to Rabiot. Does it hit his hand? Does it not? Goes over to Vlahovic. Does it hit his hand? Does it not? Goes back to Rabiot. He makes a nice move around the defender. Finds Kostic, and Kostic, well-placed shot underneath Darmian's legs. Dumfries tweeting to somebody. I don't know what the hell he was doing back there. Completely screens on Nana. Goes for the goal. 1-0 there. Thoughts on the goal? I mean, a lot of stuff happened in this first half, but in particular, controversy strikes and thoughts. It was a handball for you? No handball? Good goal? No good goal? Thoughts?
It was a handball on Vlahovic. I didn't quite see the Rabiot handball. I had seen a couple of people putting stuff on Twitter and things like that, but I thought Vlahovic definitely brought the ball down with his arm on the way down, or his arm was involved, and they should have been looked at. But it wasn't. I think Juve caught Inter where they were going to catch them, getting, when Dumfries plays for Inter, Inzaghi wants to push him into high positions, into high wide positions, and to try to stretch things out. And if the game plan from there, when you watch it, Dumfries going forward, playing higher and wider, the idea there, pin Kostic back so that he's not part of anything going forward on a counter or can't do anything dangerous. But then Juve is able to go the other way, and Kostic is able to make the run. Say what you want about the handballs or all that other stuff. It's Kostic getting in the position. And then I believe Dumfries, I don't know if he finally recovered or not, but I know Darmian was back there. Onana never saw the ball.
No.
And then it's a goal. So, the difference with that game, and that's where Dumfries kind of gets, some negative marks here when you take, the defensive responsibility of being a right wing back. He executed it to the fullest against Porto.
Yeah.
And I think that was in large part because they had to defend a lead. They were defending a lead, so his responsibilities changed. 0-0, he probably plays as if, okay, I can get away with playing higher. Darmian can cover for me, and if he wins the ball, I'll just stay in this high position and get the ball. So you see some of that going on. But clever on Juventus to find Kostic, and for clever of Kostic to attack that space. And but really, the reality is this goal should have been called back, and we should still be at 0-0.
I think Rabiot deserves a lot of credit with the move he made around the defender. I forget if it was Çalhanoğlu or Barella or whom it was, and then finding Kostic, and then Kostic again with the placement of the shot. Smart to wait for Darmian to commit and then go underneath him. Goes into a location where Dumfries is blocking the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper had no chance. I mean, no chance at all. You can't really fault Onana on the play. Certainly, Dumfries and Darmian are going to take the blame for this. I'm going to slightly disagree about the goal not being allowed. I've seen the stills around, and I'll get a lot of flack for this, and that's fine. I see a lot of stills going around of potential Rabiot handball, Vlahovic handball. I'm curious in the takes of our in-house referee Michael Lisi, and those are the likes of like Christina Uncle and stuff like that. What their thoughts are, I didn't catch any of those commentary there, but I don't know if either of those plays were intentional handballs, and it might have deflected off the body first before hitting the arm. I never really saw a good replay of it, so I'm okay with the non-call. I agree with you though; it should have gone to VAR and had VAR. If I saw those replays and maybe VAR saw that too, they would have called it back too. But I was okay with the non-call originally. I've seen much worse blatant handballs that weren't called that I was more furious with. So that's why I was okay with this. Even if it was against Milan, I would have been the same way. But yeah, it stinks. In a derby this magnitude, you don't want a game to be decided by that that kind of play, and it did. And it's unfortunate for that in that regards. But I mean, nonetheless, Juventus made good on the play that they had, the opportunity they had, and they took advantage of the lead there, 1-0 at that point. And Juventus, obviously, Barella, I think, eventually got a yellow a few minutes later. Barella was fiery in this one. There's a play where it got really feisty where Lukaku got a high boot to the face by Bremer. They square up toe-to-toe. Barella's in the face of the referee. Barella gets a yellow card. I mean, tensions were ratcheted up from the beginning of this one.
Yeah.
Gatti also got a yellow on the play, or within a minute of that, or whatever. And so high tensions. Went to halftime, 1-0. I thought a decent first half. It's a derby, which you want to see a rock fight, like you said. High tension. There's some opportunities both ways. Both keepers had to make some saves, I think. First half assessment. What are your thoughts on what we saw in the first half?
I think Juventus did their job. The way they defend and the way they set up. Okay, I mean, the most dangerous chance that they had was the 18th minute, the combination between Barella and Lukaku.
Yeah, it's great.
That Szczesny makes the point blank save. I don't know if the first attempt from Barella is really all that dangerous because it's from distance and Szczesny can see it. So he's in a position. Yeah. And I think that when Juventus set up, they're more than happy to let you shoot from distance because they have a goalkeeper that they trust that'll be able to, and you better score a worldie upper 90, otherwise he's saving it.
Yeah.
Because that was the one chance from distance that troubled Szczesny, and it really didn't even really trouble him. Okay, and then the one dangerous chance that they had was the nice bit of combination play that Barella probably should have done a little bit better with. I mean, and that's being harsh because I mean he did strike the ball clean, ball's bouncing. The technique on it was very, very good, but still from that position you want to get a finish there. But I thought aside from that, where it was great hold up play from Lukaku, where Inter really missed the consistency of that with him. He doesn't do it all of the time anymore. I mean, when they went on their title run, I mean, everything went through Lukaku and he bossed games. But now he's kind of a shell of that. Injuries have kind of damaged him, and I think he's just played so many games throughout his career. But now you've got so again, we come back to the combination. But other than that, Juve made Inter predictable. Okay. And Inter's resigned to shoot from distance. I mean, they didn't really carve out anything dangerous beyond the Barella chance in the 18th minute.
I mean, as Kyle said, this is a very Juventus performance. Shut down Inter. They couldn't really get anything going, in particular in that first half. I thought Inzaghi did some good adjustments by bringing on the likes of Mkhitaryan, I thought, in the second half. Also bringing on D'Ambrosio for Federico Di Marco, who I thought was oddly quiet in the game. He had one great opportunity, which was saved. It went off the back of a Juventus defender, maybe Gatti or De Sciglio. I think it was De Sciglio, actually. But other than that, really, Di Marco was pretty quiet for me. Game started ramping up. Rabiot gets a yellow, somewhere in the 70th, 75th minute or so. More substitutions come on. Joaquin Carrera come in. I mean, Inter really throwing everything in the kitchen sink trying to get a goal here. Edin Dzeko comes in, as is Bellanova for Dumfries. Tension getting ratcheted up. You get 6 minutes of stoppage time. You had some chances. Ultimately, the game ends, and D'Ambrosio and Paredes, forever shithousery guy who likes to get in fights with everybody, was doing his best damn job to piss off D'Ambrosio. They both get red cards ultimately. Fights the game all day around. I mean, I enjoyed this derby. This derby was, had tension, was drama, had controversy, and everything. Didn't have all the goals that you'd expect, but nonetheless, I was very entertained by this game. What are your thoughts overall on this game? 1-0 victory by Juventus.
I thought it was a competitive game. Obviously, a very hard fought game. There were quality chances from both teams, even though there wasn't a lot on target. I think Juve scored their only chance. No, they had 3 chances on target, so they forced Onana into a couple of saves that didn't really trouble them.
Yeah.
But I thought this was, like we've been saying, it was just a rock fight. I mean, it was physical. I think Anthony used the word cagey in the chat. I will, there's a lot of man of the match candidates here on the Juventus side. I thought that Locatelli put in a very assured performance from the midfield. Yeah. For starters, I think if you want to look there, you can look there. I think he had the chance from distance that Onana saved.
Yeah, it was great
during the second half that could have put the game away. But I want to, I kind of want to give it to Bremer.
Okay.
And we'll stick with the theme because last week we were talking about Inter and Porto, and Francesco Acerbi made Bremer made Taremi an afterthought.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think Lukaku faced the goal all game because of Bremer.
Back pressure was immense, yeah.
Yeah. He forced him into situations where he couldn't turn and be dangerous. And then I think you can give some credit to Gatti, who defended Lautaro Martinez well, too. I mean,
yeah, that would have been my man of the match there.
I thought both of them were outstanding in their roles. The course of 90 minutes for Lautaro Martinez, and you limit him to 1 block shot. Okay. Romelu Lukaku was done after 79 minutes. He had 1 shot off target. He had the one big chance that he created for Barella, but that was it. The forwards got non-existent in this game. Gatti, Bremer, you can flip a coin between either of those guys over who you thought was the better one. And I won't argue with you. I'll just go with Bremer because I just thought masterful job in putting Lukaku under, keeping him from turning and doing anything extraordinarily dangerous. It was just the one chance for Barella, and that was it. But collectively, Juventus as a whole limited Inter's 2 most likely sources for goals to 2 shots combined.
Yeah.
And that's stellar defending. It was and I don't like saying masterclass very often, but that was a defensive masterclass by Juventus.
Yeah, and I won't argue if you or anyone else says Bremer. I think Bremer did a fantastic job, and I would just give it. I would give it to Gatti just because no one saw it coming from Gatti. You kind of would expect it from Bremer more so than Gatti, but either way, both guys did really well. I think Kostic gets some credit too for the goal that he scored, and he was instrumental in the few attacks that Juventus did have. Allegri also deserves a lot of credit for the game plan that they instilled. What would you say if I said there's clearly a second best team in Serie A, and that team is Juventus? What would you say?
I wouldn't fight you. I mean, right now they're in seventh because of the 15-point deduction. You give them back those 15 points, they're in second, 4 points clear of Lazio.
Yeah, still 15 behind Lazio, but
still 15 behind Napoli.
But still, yeah. But they're not fantastic to watch, but it's very Allegri. They get results. They play defense, and yeah, it doesn't look great a lot of the times, like in this one, but they find a way to win, and that's the most important thing. They're actually playing well defensively at the moment, and so you have to give Allegri a lot of credit. And Juventus, despite being 15 points back, I mean, anything can happen. We still don't know that they don't get those 15 points back. They might. And if they do, that changes the whole top four trajectory. But yeah, you got to give Juventus credit, whether you like them or hate them.
There's 11 games left, and they're 7 points out of fourth with the penalty right now.
That's going to look bad for anybody that beat in the top four with 15 points back.
What's that?
If they get into the top four, that looks bad for every team that doesn't make the top four with their 15-point deduction.
Yeah, we said that, and we said that a few weeks ago. We said complete indictment on the teams that had it in their hands to be able to get the points that they need. And it would not shock me if they can continue playing like this and getting results like this, Milan, Lazio, Roma, Atalanta, they're all, like I said, they're all cannibalizing. Inter in that mix. They're cannibalizing each other right now.
Except for Napoli.
We started by saying they're all cannibalizing each other to Napoli's benefit. Napoli will just keep running away with the title, but now they're all cannibalizing each other to Juventus's benefit. That they're going to be able to catch them and possibly grab a place in the top four. And it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up in the top four finish.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's an indictment for the rest of the league, but it's full credit to Allegri and the way that Juventus have kind of rebounded through all of this. And they probably use this as a lightning rod to help them propel them. They were already doing well before the 15-point deduction, and then now they probably used it as like another chip on their shoulder that say, hey, look, no one's going to believe in us. We're going to go and beat everybody on the way, back into the top four. So,
Yep. Agreed. So I think you can Inter, I think on a different day against a different opponent with everything that was going on here, they win. They played a team that kept them out, defended really well, made them predictable. When you see the kind of statistical output, Mkhitaryan, I think, came on and was very effective. He just couldn't get anything on target. He couldn't get anything to trouble Szczesny. It was, like I said, just a defensive masterclass from Juve on the way to winning. The other derby that took place, Richard, on Sunday, the Derby della Capitale, Lazio-Roma. Home match for Lazio, and didn't we predict this, that they would beat Roma, right?
Yes, sir.
We got to go back. We called this one. Traditional Saudi 4-3-3, Provedel in goal, Marusic, Casale, Romagnoli, Husai, and then Cataldi, flanked by Luis Alberto and Milinkovic-Savic, Felipe Anderson in the false nine with Zaccagni and Pedro left and right. Thoughts on this lineup here? No Immobile, obviously. Or Immobile from the substitutes bench, in fact, not starting. Vecino suspended. Thoughts on what Saudi put out against Roma here?
Yeah, I know they really try to recover Immobile in time for the game, and the best they could do is get him on for the bench, which I think was fine because I think we've said this numerous times that Lazio almost play better without Immobile because there's no indictment on him. He's a fantastic player, one of the best goal scorers ever in Serie A, but they seem to play without the crutch of Immobile. When Immobile is in the game, they have this feeling that they want to give him the ball, and rightly so. He's a great goal scorer. When he's not there, it's more of a team game. You see the front three really interchange with each other really well. They change spots sometimes. The passing and connection seems really good. I like this lineup. I think overall, obviously Zaccagni, Felipe Anderson, and Pedro are going to be a dynamic trio there, and obviously Luis Alberto. Anytime he starts in a game with Milinkovic-Savic, that's a plus. And Cataldi, is one of the better choices that Sarri can make at this position, and so. Yeah, I think it's a good lineup. And Casale and Romagnoli, they've been very strong as of late, and Provedel is a fantastic keeper. So, yeah, I like this lineup.
Good. Roma with a 3-4-2-1. Patricio with Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez across the back. Zalewski and Spinazzola in the wing-back positions. Wijnaldum and Cristante in the middle. Pellegrini and Dybala in their playmaking roles with Andrea Belotti up front. Thoughts on Roma?
Dybala play that surprised me just watching this game, but I digress. I have to agree with Kyle. He says Roger Ibanez doesn't have a great history in the derby. He does not. He must hate this game. They should just bench him every time this game comes up. I know they don't really have a choice, but whatever. But overall, I like the lineup. I like seeing Zalewski and Spinazzola both out there. We'll get to Zalewski and how he impacted this game later, but. Overall, I like this starting 11. Fairly solid. Always good to see Gini Wijnaldum, a healthy Gini Wijnaldum in the game. I thought he was pretty good in the game overall for the most part. Another feisty game, just like the Derby d'Italia.
It ended up being your typical Mourinho. All right, we're going to park the bus. I mean, in the first half was evident of that in particular. I mean, it had to be, after the red card to Ibanez in the 32nd minute. But for the most part, Roma set up to try to break on Lazio. Lazio certainly dominated possession. You look at the first half of this game. I mean, the shots were 5-4, 2 on target for Lazio that, called Patricio into a couple of important saves. Yeah. Provedel had to make a big save in the first half.
Yes.
So the goalkeeper's looking really good here in the first half. But then Ibanez, to Kyle's point, second yellow gets sent off in the 32nd minute. And Roma are suddenly down to 10 men. What did you make of Ibanez in the fouls he committed?
The first one was stupid. That was obviously a yellow card. I think the referee had no choice but to give him a second yellow because it was a stupid play. Had he not been on a yellow, I think you could get away with not calling a yellow there. But all eyes are on Ibanez at that point. It's a stupid play by him. He shouldn't have got in there. It's a yellow, but it's a soft yellow. But again, you're already on a yellow. I get it too. You're in a big game like this. You should try to not be the impact. I'm talking about the referee not being impacting this game, and he does. But it's also like Ibanez kind of left him no choice. I mean, he threw himself at Milinkovic-Savic and knocked him over. After a turnover that he caused, it's like, what are you going to do, man? Don't put yourself in that position. We say this numerous times. Don't put yourself in stupid positions that you leave the call up to somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's what Ibanez does routinely in these kind of games, especially the derby. And we saw in this game, 32 minutes in, he puts his team in a big deficit.
Yep, definitely. To the point where Dybala has to come off at halftime for Llorente. So that there can be an added defender to try to absorb things. It doesn't. I mean, Lazio clearly has more of the ball. They dominate this game. I mean, that red card changed a lot and took a lot of possibilities away from Roma. And there would be a goal here from Zaccagni in the 65th minute. To put Lazio in front 1-0. Thoughts on the goal here?
I mean, it was just a beautiful goal. Luis Alberto finding Felipe Anderson. Felipe Anderson made this marvelous little flick. I mean, just beautiful touch by him to just ever so get it past Zalewski. And Zalewski completely misreads this play. And to his chagrin, it's Zaccagni, of course, on the other end. And Zaccagni, goal of the week candidate, if not goal of the week. It was just a beautifully struck ball past Rui Patricio. But, I mean, as beautiful as the play that Lazio made, I think Zalewski deserves a lot of flack for this because he completely misreads his play. And granted, it's a beautiful play by Felipe Anderson. It's hard to guess when those are going to happen. But, I mean, it completely left Zaccagni unmarked and didn't know where the hell he was. And all of a sudden the ball goes right by him, and then Zaccagni comes in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So, great for Lazio. I mean, wonderful goal. And of course, in a game like this, you thought it would either be Felipe Anderson or Zaccagni. And, of course, Zaccagni shows up. Zaccagni, such a fantastic play this year. We've talked about it even when he was at Hellas, such a good player. And now he's really, getting the notoriety that he deserves, especially with a goal like that in this kind of game. Good for him and good for Lazio.
Was he snubbed this round of call-ups?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
100%.
Who do you take out?
One of the new boys. I'd probably go with Pafundi.
Okay.
I mean, look, you got Pafundi, great story, 17-year-old Udinese. Give him a chance. Why not? But Zaccagni is arguably the best attacker right now for the Azzurri. We'll get into the lineup when we see that, but I challenge anyone outside of Vincenzo Grifo to tell me that they're better than Zaccagni at the moment. Anybody, and you'll find it hard to change my mind.
Yeah, I heard somebody saying that maybe Grifo shouldn't be in the team for Zaccagni, and I just thought that was ridiculous. Actually, borderline hilarious. Grifo's really good.
You kidding me? He's having a fantastic 13 goals this year in Bundesliga. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, that's just somebody who doesn't watch enough. He just does, and
you sound like the English fans. You sound like the English fans when you just
people go to Twitter and find out who said it. I'm not going to say his name. I mean, he's kind of a notorious guy.
No, it's fine.
But he mentioned Gnonto or Grifo, and those are two guys who are in really good form for their clubs.
Yeah.
Gnonto probably not with the goals and assists that Grifo has, but I mean, Gnonto's playing really well on a shitty team. So
the only argument I say about Grifo is that maybe you could say that maybe doesn't fit Mancini's style, but I mean, he's such a talented player. Like, you got to have him in there.
Hard to leave him out. I mean, you got Berardi, Chiesa, Gnonto, Grifo, Politano, who are kind of your, wide forwards, which is a kind of
or Salini, maybe. Just I don't know.
If you really wanted to, you could. I mean, Mondrago didn't make the team, did he? No, he didn't make the team.
No, he didn't. That's what I mean.
That was another surprise.
Or Salini. I mean, give those guys a chance,
5, 6, 7, 8. He's got 10 defenders in this team. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But
play them all at once.
I don't know why you need so many defenders, or why do you need 4 goalkeepers too? I mean, I get it; they're all playing well, but yeah, there's somebody you can. I think there's somebody that you can make room for Zaccagni for sure, but to suggest Grifo was just irresponsible. Just totally irresponsible, and it's just it's just lack of knowledge. So you're not going to get that here at Serie A Sit Down. You're going to get knowledge, and we're going to inform you. We're not going to give you outrageous takes about how somebody having a couple of good games for a club, and then and then we're going to come on a podcast and say he's suddenly that team's best player. Someone on Juventus, his name's Fagioli, and I won't tell you who said that. I only caught wind of it through somebody else, and it's I'll just say there's 4 letters, so and leave it at that. I might be giving too much away at that point. So
what are we talking about? Lazio Roma.
That?
What are we talking about? Lazio Roma. Yes.
Let's come back to Lazio Roma. I got side. I only wanted to drift off in a tangent and just rant about people saying irresponsible things just to gain viewers, which is just stupid. So you're not going to get that here at Serie A Sit Down. We're trying to equip you with the knowledge of the calcio over here. So
I thought you were just going to say we just give you the stupid.
That's for who on Calcio Twitter.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Roma have lost 3 out of 4 now in Serie A. That 3-4 loss to Sassuolo. They did beat Juve, but there's losses to Cremonese and Lazio and Sassuolo in there. Time to worry about Roma a little bit, or are we jumping the gun?
I think it's jumping the gun. I mean, obviously, the derby was always going to be difficult, and the game is almost predictable just because it's how it's gone. One team will win one way, and then when whoever's home usually wins. Typically, as say Sassuolo's won 4 games in a row now, so they're a little bit of a hot streak at the moment. Cremonese is trying to fight for survival, so that's not too surprising there. And so I think it's. And then plus they're still in European play, and so they're playing on multiple fronts at the moment, and so I think it's not a time to worry. It's a little bit of a rough patch for them. Hopefully they can come out of it. I still think that they're very much in the mix for this top 4, and they just got to get some results going their way. But obviously it does not look good when you have 3 out of 4 losses to the teams that are mostly below you outside of Lazio.
Yeah. But Lazio on a heck of a run now all of a sudden. And really looking like they're on the cusp of running away with a Champions League place. Getting bounced by AZ Alkmaar in the Conference League might be the best thing that's happened to him here because Lazio and the other things, defensively, they have not conceded a goal in their last 5 games in Serie A. That's pretty damn impressive for a Lazio team that we thought defensively was always a disaster. But we got to continue to sing praises about this team. PEDL got a call up, rightfully so, certainly earned it. You know,
wonderful goalkeeper.
Romagnoli got a call up, rightfully so, certainly deserves it. Someday, Nico Casale is going to be in this Azzurri team. Okay, too good not to keep leaving out. I'd easily have him in there over Bonucci right now. But, that didn't happen, and we have to live with that. But, look at this Lazio team all of a sudden just 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 5. Let me see. I'm going back to try to find out how long they've been on a – let's see. 5 straight games without conceding a goal since that 2-0. I mean, just in Serie A, they were conceding goals in conference, but how about this, man? It's pretty impressive to see.
I mean, a Casale Romagnoli back, center back pairing for the Azzurri might not be a bad thing at the moment, just the way they're playing with Lazio.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah,
I would do it. If they're in that kind of form, playing well, and they're seeing pretty good attacking players. It's not like they're not. I would have and run them out there against. Don't do it against England, but do it against Malta, and see how it looks. And then you get your next round of international, and then try it against North Macedonia. And then just kind of make the progression and build those two together. If they're playing well together at Lazio, maybe it does translate to the Azzurri. So I don't hate the idea at all, Richard.
Yeah. 100%.
So, banging the drum. Nico Casale should be in this. You couldn't even make the argument. And the defensive record is very, very impressive. They've conceded 19 goals, second best defensive record in the league, behind Napoli, who've conceded 16. Yeah. So, 2 teams that we assume for attacking football are defending like crazy, and they're the 2 best defenses in the league. Yeah. We didn't think we'd ever. When did we ever think we would say that Napoli and Lazio would be better defensively than Juve, Inter, and Roma with Jose Mourinho?
Yeah.
So this has been a crazy season, hasn't it?
It has. It certainly has. From top to bottom, it just crazy results happen. Week in and week out, and reigning champions not playing well. Napoli obviously they're having a fantastic season, fully deserved. Nobody wants second place. It seems like Juventus with a 50-point deduction, but they're playing second best ball in the league. So yeah, it's so much going on in the league, which is it's wonderful.
Definitely. So let's just quick whip through the rest of Serie A here, Richard. Looking at things happened on my birthday. I got to watch the little calcio on my birthday, so it's kind of cool. We have Sassuolo continuing their winning ways, beating Spezia. It was a Domenico Berardi penalty. But if anybody watched this game, wow, Loriente and Berardi looked fantastic.
Yes, it did.
Didn't have as much of the ball as Spezia did, but were so much more dangerous than Spezia were. So deserved win for them as they continue to keep things going. We thought we had a shock on the cards in the second game. Empoli pulled ahead of Atalanta with Tyrone Ebuihi in the 44th minute. But it would be Martin Derone in the 58th minute. And that man, again, Rasmus Højlund, another revelation. Where does Atalanta find these guys? 2-1 for Ladea as they win to try to keep hopes alive of a top 4 finish. Other side of the table, Monza Cremonese, that ended 1-1, honors even there. Ciofani scoring in the 61st minute. Carlos Augusto scoring in the 69th, canceling each other out there. Really a game controlled by Monza. Should have gotten 3 points out of this, didn't. Salernitana and Bologna, this game ended 2-2. One of the more entertaining games of the round, really, Richard.
Absolutely.
Lorenzo Piarola, we hyped this guy up a few weeks ago as a defender in this Salernitana setup. Keep an eye on this kid. He's pretty decent. As a defender, but then he gets a goal off an Antonio Candreva cross here. 11th minute, Lewis Ferguson levels on a assist from Kyriakopoulos. We go into halftime 1-1. Bulai Diaz scoring to make it 2-1. Liko Giannis leveling it at 2. That was all the scoring that happened there. 24 shots between both teams. And then the mild surprise, but if you're a Milan supporter, going to Friuli is like pulling teeth, and it happened again. 3-1 to Udinese. Roberto Pereira in the 9th minute, some incredibly irresponsible defending all the way around, leading to that goal. Zlatan Ibrahimovic would get a penalty in stoppage time of the first half that would be saved. There was encroachment, but he retakes it. He scores, becoming the oldest player in Serie A history to score a goal at age 41. But when is a team most vulnerable? After they score a goal. And right away, coming the other way, just before halftime, Beto puts Udinese up 2-1. Kingsley Ehizibwe in the 70th, making it 3-1 to wrap up the 3 points for Sotil's men. Milan, 64% of the possession, 6 chances on target. Very good performance from Silvestri in goal, has to be said.
Yes.
But in the end, a win for Udinese in an uncharacteristically undisciplined effort from the Rossoneri. Sampdoria, this is what it looks like when they score goals. Because everything else has been there for Sampdoria. They just don't score enough. And
exactly.
It was Manolo Gabbiadini with a brace in the 24th. Oh, I lost my earpiece.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. In the 24th and 35th minutes. And then it got a little interesting there in the 88th. Faraoni in the 88th scoring for Hellas Verona. But then Zanoli slams the door shut in the 93rd. 3 points there for Sampdoria in a not really a relegation 6-pointer because this was 18th against 19th. Odero with a very good performance in goal, had 5 saves. That's worth noting. But a big win there for Stankovic and Sampdoria. Fiorentina winning 1-0 over Lecce on an own goal by Antonino Gallo. Not much to report here. Fiorentina were in cruise control with this one. 18 shots, outshot Lecce 18-8, had a lot of the possession. Probably should have scored a little bit more here, just didn't. And then finally, Napoli just doing Napoli things. 4-0 over Torino. It started with Osimhen in the 9th minute from Zielinski, Kvaratskhelia with a penalty in the 35th, Victor Osimhen in the 51st from Oliveira, and then it was Ndombele after a beautiful – that's my goal of the week, by the way.
Okay.
Beautiful counterattack, beautiful team football finished by Ndombele. Just that is the essence of what Napoli has been this season. A 4-0 thrashing of a pretty good Torino team has to be said.
Yeah.
Napoli taking care of business there. Where would you like to start?
We'll start with the back. I mean, Napoli winning 4-0. I mean, they went up obviously early. Osimhen gets his 20th goal of the season. Ultimately gets his 21st of the season. Leads the league by a substantial amount. Easy Capitale winner at the moment. But yeah, it wasn't like Torino were laying over for them. Torino came to play. I thought first 30 minutes, Torino were playing really well. They just were lacking a goal. I thought Meret was fantastic in this game. He had some huge saves in the first half in particular. But this is what Napoli do. They come at you wave after wave after wave. You get Osimhen, there's Kvaratskhelia, then there's Lobotka, there's Ngiza, there's Ndombele. There's this wave after wave of player, and they just wear you down. And then they pounce on your mistakes, and Napoli took full advantage of it. Osimhen is fantastic in the air. That goal that Osimhen scored, second goal, that's a goal of the week for me, or one of the goals of the week candidate for me. What a beautiful play there, and this wonderful finish. Oliveira with a lovely pass. But it just Napoli are just so consistent, and that's why they are at the top by a lot. They have their off games, but they find ways to win. They're very consistent in that regards, and full credit goes to Spalletti for getting his team ready to play. And whether it's Champions League, whether it's Serie A, they find a way to get it done. Maybe not so much in Coppa Italia, but we can overlook that as fantastic as they're playing. So well done by them. Yeah, Fiorentina should have done a lot better. Lecce had a couple moments here. Falcone had some saves as well, but I think ultimately Fiorentina continue the fine form that they've been lately. It's good to see them. It's actually glad to see the win because shout out to 60 Minutes. They had a nice piece on Rocco Commisso this weekend as well. So a little bit of double Fiorentina action going on this weekend. So if you missed it on 60 Minutes, go check it out. Good piece on Rocco Commisso. So definitely check that out. Sampdoria, like you said, I think good for them that they finally get some goals here. I think we've been saying that maybe this is a team that Stankovic can pull out of the doldrums and find a way to survive. And then obviously this relegation 6-pointer was huge. And getting 3 goals, maybe they can finally find a way to start scoring. Now, yeah, they got a little bit of luck. But I mean, like that goal that Zanoli scored was really nice. Obviously Gabbiadini with his nice rocket, that was a great goal there. So they're doing some good things as well. Bologna, Salernitana was very entertaining. I thought Monza had a lot of sleek, suave plays where like the one-touch passing should have done better. Should have done better, like you said. But the ultimate. Oh, before I get to Milan, I thought Sassuolo again continue their fine form. We talk about 4 games in a row now that they're winning. Spezia, it wasn't like they were bad. I think Dragowski should get so much credit. We've been talking for years. I mean, he's a good goalkeeper. He's a solid goalkeeper, and he made fantastic saves in this game. He continues to be, if Spezia survive, he'll be one of the main reasons. Him and Enzola. I thought there's the 2 main guys for that team on either end of the pitch, and Dragowski had to come up with some huge saves in this game. And still, Sassuolo found a way to win. It's like you said, Loriente and Berardi were just so good in this game. Fratesi was doing some magic in the middle as well. And obviously, guys like Defrel and company, they were contributing as well. So yeah, it's a good game overall for Sassuolo, but they've continued to find ways to get the results. And then the Milan game, obviously it's a bitter taste in our mouths. I think the penalty, as Dominic alluded to, wasn't a penalty. I don't think Milan deserved a penalty in that play, and it was. I almost said the ball don't lie when the goal didn't happen. But obviously they retook it, and then Zlatan got the record. But that shouldn't have been a goal. But also the third goal for Udinese, I don't think should have happened as well. I think there was a foul on Malik Chow that should have been called. It wasn't. Regardless, I think Udinese were absolutely deserved winners in this game. There, it leaves you wondering, and we've been through this before when Milan have made deep runs in the Champions League and looked not that great in the league, and we're seeing it again. And it's frustrating because they should be doing a lot better. They're making stupid, silly mistakes over and over again. It doesn't matter if it's Magnone in goal or Tatarasano. They just continue to make these mistakes, and it's Pioli not adapting well enough. The team is looking foolish at the moment, and right now they're the team that's 7 points ahead of Juventus with this 15-point deduction. If they don't make the top 4, it's probably going to be Pioli's job, unless they win the Champions League, or make it to the final or something like that, something crazy. But it's infuriating because like on one hand, like I said, they're doing really well in Champions League, and they have just as good a chance as any Italian team to make it to the finals. Yes, you're facing a daunting Napoli team, but they can be had. They're not invincible. And so, I mean, it would be a Milan thing to do is go win the Champions League and finish in 5th place and still get the Champions League spot, right? So, I don't know. It's hard to watch right now, and it's hard not to blame Pioli, but there's a lot of people at fault for them not playing well. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the weekend?
The troubling thing for me is how easily this team falls apart when just one player is missing.
Yeah.
No Teo Hernandez, which could have provided a little bit of influence on this game. You're not as concerned about Fode Ballo-Toure as you are about Teo Hernandez.
Yeah, he almost scored though.
Yeah,
almost.
I don't know if there's a starting 11 right now in football that's more of a house of cards than Milan. That if one of them is out, the whole thing falls apart. I think that striker, you can play Giroud or Ibrahimovic. I don't think you can play Origi. Brahim Diaz is serviceable in the role that he's in. You'd like to see CDK play more. Clearly, Milan think there's a confidence, and Pioli thinks there's a confidence problem with him to trust him to give him more minutes than he's getting. I'll say the same thing. I'll ask the same question. Are any of us at Milanello every day?
True.
You know, we're not at the training. We're not seeing what's going on. You know, we're not seeing what we're missing here. You know, it's very, very convenient for Milan Twitter and for guys to go out and say, you know, we put Chow out there and he's performing really well. Why aren't we giving Adli more of a run out? Why aren't we giving Bronx more of a run out? Well, we weren't suffering. We're not suffering at those positions as much. I mean, okay, go ahead. In this particular formation, go ahead, give Bronx a try. Who you want to take? You want to take out Tonali?
He's not playing. Well, it's an interesting argument I heard over the weekend, and I forget who was. It was Lisi and somebody, and they were talking about Tonali. Tonali does seem like a shell of himself, Benacer to an extent as well. And I think that what the argument was, or the conversation was, that Frank Kessie, for everything that we took it for granted, was his great box-to-box midfielder. Caused a lot of havoc in that derby last year. He was fantastic playing in the attacking midfielder role, completely snuffing out the inter midfield, and allowed guys like Benacer and Tonali to really the freedom to be the offensive geniuses that they end up becoming. And without him there, without a bulldog in the middle, Radley Krunic, it doesn't seem like they're the same team. And to an extent, that's yes, and I agree with that. Another extent is like, well, it's a different team, different setup, and you can go either way, but I mean, it was interesting to hear that. I mean, Kessie, obviously, the president scores the game winner in the El Clasico this weekend too. So that's another reason his name was forefront for everyone.
I think it's the ground that Kessie covered.
It was Anthony. There you go.
Yeah, I think it's the ground that Kessie covered that allowed Tonali to maybe have a little more freedom, where he doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah,
because he doesn't have that safety valve that he's partnered with in the midfield. Benacer and Tonali can arguably be two of the same guy functionally.
Yeah,
they both like to make from deeper positions. Benacer might be a little bit better on the tackle than Tonali is. But you don't have that engine room guy that will just absorb all the space, that will cover all the ground, that'll free you up.
And if you had a playmaker, that would also help as well, which they don't.
I think they're trying to get that out of the combination of Tonali and Benacer from those positions, and
Brahim too, and as well. But it just hasn't clicked continuously or consecutively, consistently, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really rigid team right now in the way that it's set up. But I think if you want a 3-4-2-1, if you're going to play with two center midfielders against anybody right now, I mean, look at what when we talked about Atalanta for years and how much they wanted to dominate the ball in that 3-4-2-1 setup, and those two center midfielders just got run ragged because they kept playing higher, and then there's the huge gap between them and the back three, and then teams were exploiting them going the other way, and Gasperini had to change that, and he had to get his midfielders to be more compact. And more connected with his back three. Pioli has to do that, but characteristically, when you look at Atalanta and who are the players that play in those roles right now in that same formation, Martin Deron, who you could argue is kind of, you're not using Deron for playmaking, although he scored a goal on Friday.
He did.
Yeah. Are Tonali and Benacer characteristically what Deron is? Partially, at best.
And
I'm not sitting here and before everybody loses their shit. I'm not saying Martin Deron is a better player than Tonali or Benacer. I think that Deron has a functional responsibility in the same formation that his characteristics allow him to execute it a little bit better.
He's funnier on Twitter.
And he's funnier on Twitter, exactly.
It's funny how the two managers who were lauded for how brilliant they are and the marvelous job they did with their teams. I'm talking about Inzaghi and Pioli, are two guys who are now mentioned at the forefront, as it would be at big clubs that their names are on the chopping block if they don't do well here in the coming weeks. So we'll see how both their positions fail or can they hang on. Obviously, Conte is possibly being let go very soon from Tottenham after his tirade the other day against the club. So, yeah, it's just typical Italian managers, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I would want Antonio Conte to come to Milan.
I wouldn't.
What's that?
I would not.
No, I wouldn't. So who knows? I mean, it just, yeah, it's a funk, and you know what? And Zlatan Ibrahimovic made some very interesting comments after the loss to Udinese, and he said, when you're the defending Serie A champion, they're all coming after you.
Yeah, as it should be.
They're getting everybody's best shot, and some of this might even be and I'm not trying to make excuses for Milan or any of this other stuff. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it for them, but some of this might be a lot of young players that have never been in a championship position before. Zlatan's been there. Kjaer has been there. Giroud has been there. But after that, who's been there? And Maignan with Lille. But the rest of these guys, are learning how to they're learning how to be the hunted.
And you know what the crazy thing about all this is? Inter and Milan are both still in the top 4.
Yeah. For now.
For now.
Yeah. Yeah, Milan's top 4, right?
Yeah. Okay. Juve and Roma, I guess, to an extent, but yeah, definitely Juve is charging hard for sure. Yeah.
So, Milan's in 4th, Inter's in 3rd. Juve's charging in. Roma keeps tripping over themselves. Yeah. Juve's making a big charge. So, on the one end, it's time to be very uncomfortable. But if Juve gets those 15 points back, Milan's in 5th.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But I think But I found it interesting for Zlatan to say that because I was never considering that. And you got to think about it. You had Tonali, okay, Benacer won the African Cup of Nations with Algeria, but he's not had to go and defend that title.
Yeah.
So Leao couldn't be bothered to be hunted. And that's another point right now. And I know a lot of people are talking about it. I know Matteo and Kay talked about it on their podcast. Is this the real Leao? Was he a flash in the pan last year? We got to start asking some serious questions. Or is it just really, really easy to scheme against him? I still go back and refer the Chelsea games in the Champions League where Chelsea shaded their shape in Leo's direction and dared Milan to beat them down the right-hand side, which is Chelsea's left-hand side.
And
they couldn't. So
it goes back to you could go back as far back as Belotti and say with that 1 year he was fantastic. Everyone's ready to say, hey, he's world class. And it's give Serie A teams a season and they can figure you out. And if you can still do it, you are class and whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe teams have figured out Leao. Now Leao, if he wants to be considered in the next class, assuming he stays in the league and with Milan, can he bounce back and continue to push back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with Kvaratskhelia next year. Next year if he stays with Napoli, how does he react when the team starts changing over to him? They're gonna do it. They're gonna know his nuances and everything, and how does he react to that? So people want to be quick to say, "Yeah, this person's world class, that person's world class, whatever."
Yeah,
it takes years to become world class. You don't become overnight Hakan Çalhanoğlu.
No,
sorry.
I think PSG is already tabling a 180 million bid for Kvara. I thought I read that the other day.
Yeah.
What's that?
They're probably going after him. Osimhen, anybody who's anybody, they're probably going to go after.
I told some people that I know that I said that Napoli could easily see 300 million euros for Kvara and Osimhen.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And
Kim too, if you want to.
And they thought, and they thought I was nuts. I was like, they really can. So, we covered Fiorentina. We kind of covered the bottom 3 a little bit. I mean, Empoli's losing games. Lecce's losing games. Salernitana is dropping points that they shouldn't, and Spezia is not really being all that convincing. There is still hope for the bottom 3 to get out of this and to make a run because the 3 or 4 teams in front of them continue to trip over themselves. I think from 13 on up is safe. I think Monza is going to be fine.
You think so? Point wise, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, but Empoli on down are not. I mean, I'll argue this. Fine, they got the points now and they got the comfort, but they're not safe.
Yeah,
because Empoli's now lost 4 on the bounce. Spezia can't score unless Nzola's playing.
Yeah.
Which My sole reason for wanting to see Spezia get relegated is because Nzola will not go down with him. He'll get on another team.
Exactly.
And man, will he blow up. I mean, mark
Yeah.
my words. He will put him on one of these Seven Sisters. I mentioned Fiorentina, but man, he could be a beast.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are showing enough respect for him.
Agreed.
So, in the season that he's having, so and what he means to that team, he's pretty much keeping Spezia up at this point. So, goals of the week. I just had the one, the Napoli counterattack scored by Ndombele. And I wouldn't write off Sampdoria yet. No, I am I am a believer in Dejan Stankovic as a manager.
Yeah.
And you're right. They have the schedule where they can navigate this. And if Gabbiadini can start scoring it, if he can start getting some service, my biggest concern with Sampdoria is who unlocks people on that team and who's pacey, who's giving a different dynamic. That's the problem I have with Sampdoria overall, but I don't hate it. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Loan Origi for Nzola.
Done. Do it. Let's do it.
If we can sucker Spezia into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Maldini better smoke a cigarette if he pulls that deal
or
off.
Bakayoko, whatever. So you got Ndombele goal of the week, right?
Yeah.
My top four, it doesn't make my top four, but that's a good goal as well. I almost put it in there. Number 4 is Zanoli from Jesse. I thought that was a really good counterattacking goal by Sampdoria. Speaking of Sampdoria, third goal of the game there. Number 3, Osimhen second. I talked about earlier the team play between Kvaratskhelia to Oliveira over the top. The Osimhen is just so good in the air. Gabbiadini's goal did well. People want to say it was offsides in that goal, but off the defender over to Gabbiadini, and he just rifled it from outside the box, top corner. Wonderful goal there. Number 1 for me, you score in the derby, and I'm talking about Derby d'Italia. It's going to be number 1, and that's Zaccagni. Wonderful goal, wonderful play. Just Luis Alberto to Felipe Anderson over to Zaccagni, and Zaccagni, the wonderful placement on the shot. Little bend, and it came back in. It was just like a pull shot, magical there. So that's number 1 for me.
Okay. Yep, I just had the 1, so I'll just leave it at that instead of going to all of these specifics. Yeah. So, let's move on. Let's talk draws. The Champions League draw coming out first. Napoli will – so Milan will host Napoli in the first leg, and then Benfica host Inter, and then the winners play each other, which basically – when this could not have worked out any better for Serie A. Okay, you're guaranteed one team in the semifinals, and if Inter can beat Benfica, you're guaranteed a team in the final. So for at least 2 rounds, let's just talk about that dynamic first, Richard. For at least 2 rounds, Serie A is relevant in this competition.
And I hear a lot of people giving shtick for, the bracket is unfair. Like, I think it's fine. Now we also, as played devil's advocates, we as Serie A fans should remember back in 2007, there was 3 out of 4 teams were English teams, and they gave them 75% chance to win the Champions League. And who won the Champions League in 2007, Frank?
Milan.
Exactly. So let's not count out Benfica because they're very good, as we both know. But yeah, I agree. I think we should be celebrating this at the moment because, guaranteed at least one Italian team in the semifinals. You have a team in that mix, Napoli, who could win the title. They're that good. But don't discount, Milan and Inter as well, especially if, Inter can get a result against Benfica, which would be very impressive. And if Milan can find a way to get a win over Napoli, that'd be impressive too. You could have a Derby della Madonnina in the semifinals as well. I mentioned that, right? But yeah, just to have a Serie A team, potentially one of the 3 teams in the final, and possibly winning it, it's a good thing for Serie A. Serie A has 6 teams in the European quarterfinals, 2 more than any other country in the world, or in Europe, I should say. So yeah, it's good time to be a Serie A fan.
Yeah.
Obviously, the other side of the bracket has some big heavyweights, and Real Madrid is topping the cake out of all of that. But looking just on this side, I think it's 2 tasty matchups, interesting matchups, and I think coaching will prevail. Talent goes a long way, but I think the coaches in these kind of games always prevail. We saw what Ancelotti and Real Madrid did, last year. It wasn't just talent; it was coaching. So we'll see what these three managers from Serie A can muster up here in the last couple rounds.
For sure. Fun fact: Carlo Ancelotti has managed 5 of the 8 clubs that are in the quarterfinals.
Damn.
Yep. Napoli, Milan, Real Madrid, Chelsea, and Bayern Munich.
Yeah. Pretty good.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I just saw that just a second ago when I popped up this screen. I was like, you know what? That's right. So, oh, mercy.
Yeah.
So let's break these down. For me, Milan-Napoli is going to actually be pretty quick, and for my fellow Milan fans, they're not going to like this. I think Napoli defensively are going to have an answer for what Milan tried to do over the 180 minutes. You know, and I think that it's going to be closer than people think. I think that Milan will find their way to scoring a goal somewhere in there. But I think on aggregate, I'm going to go for Napoli to win 3-1 on aggregate over the 2 games. So, you know, maybe a Napoli get a 1-0 win at the San Siro on the first leg, and then on the second leg in Naples, it's 2-1. Milan maybe score first and make this interesting. But we can call this the Carlo Ancelotti Invitational if we wanted. But I'm going to go Napoli go through. I think, like I said, defensively, they're just going to have an answer for whatever Milan can do going forward. And you can't defend everybody on the pitch against them, you know, and we've seen now suddenly over the 2 legs against Eintracht Frankfurt, whether it was Lozano or whether it was Politano, they made themselves dangerous. Zielinski makes himself dangerous. I think this is a great tie for Zielinski. I think he gets in behind those 2 midfielders if Pioli keeps playing this formation, and I think he eats. You know, wherein all the focus will be on Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. So, and I think as a result, Napoli go through. And again, I'll say it, 3-1 on aggregate over the 180 minutes. Napoli will advance to the semis.
Milan have to be perfect to advance. Napoli do not. And that's a telling tale right there. I mean, out of anybody in the league this year, maybe outside of Inter and Lazio, I guess to an extent, Milan, and you can argue that Milan had played the best defense against Napoli this season. But that seems like an eternity ago, the way Milan played then and the way they're playing now. Based on current form, and obviously we're still a little bit away from the first game. Anything can happen in terms of form, but Napoli's been very consistent. We almost know what we're going to get with them. And Milan, they're very Jekyll and Hyde, like you said, and we don't know what to expect. Can they turn up and perform, do a masterclass performance? Absolutely. I think, you know, Pioli and the team have the talent and the manager to do it. But like you, I don't see it. I think it'll be closer than the experts think, but I just think this Napoli team at the moment, defensively, they're better. Midfield, superior. Attack, superior. Goalkeeper, advantage Milan, but very slight. Moret's been very, very good this year. Mm-hmm. Like you, I think if Milan's going to get a result, they're going to get a result in the first game at home, and then when they go to the Maradona, it's going to be a different result. And I see a 1-goal victory ultimately over 2 legs by Napoli, but it's going to be a true test for Napoli. But I just don't see it for Milan as much as I want to, based on current form as we see it right now. Now, when the game comes and the things change, great, whatever, that's so be it. But I don't see it, man, as much as I want to. And I think it'll be a good season going to the quarterfinals for both, you know, Inter and Milan, and maybe not Napoli because they just should go further. But yeah, I don't see it. I think Napoli ultimately get by barely, but they get by. I think they're just too good at the moment.
I'm with Anthony. For Milan to have a prayer here, they've got to win leg 1, but I just think Napoli are way too good. Yeah. Inter and Benfica. Serie A has a problem with playing in Portugal. And if you want to know how good Benfica are, go and look what they did to Juventus, especially in Lisbon, where they put 4 past them. The attacking power is all there. Gonzalo Ramos up front, I don't think scares Inter as much. I think the guys they've got to worry about. João Mario is excellent for them. Former Inter player, by the way. So he's going to be very interested in. But Rafa Silva has probably the last 2 years has been some of his best football playing for Benfica. I'm a big fan of Grimaldo on the left coming forward.
Yeah.
Which is going to put a lot of pressure on that right-hand side. A little bit different than what Porto offered with Galeno coming at you with Sanusi. Because what Benfica will do is they'll put Arsenez on the left where he's more of a holder and he'll play a lot more narrow. So that's going to give the room for Grimaldo to come forward, and be a danger. And then Chiquinho through the midfield. They haven't totally replaced Enzo Fernandez since he went to Chelsea. That's one flaw to them. The other thing that I think that maybe stymies Benfica is for all of Nicolas Otamendi's experience, he can still commit some pretty bad fouls at some pretty bad times.
Yeah.
I see this being if Lautaro gets the space on the counter and gets the Inter can win this over 2 legs. I think I feel great about their chances if they can pull off a draw in Lisbon, and I think they can do that. I think Inzaghi will set them up defensively. Chat's making an excellent point about Kyle about Inzaghi being Inter under Inzaghi seeming to love cup competitions. I agree. And I think that the matchup sets up well for the way Inter truly like to play. I don't think they're going to be ball dominant in either game. And that's where I see the path for them to go through, and win on aggregate. But they are going to have to, just like against Porto, when they went to the Dragao, they're going to have to get a draw in Lisbon to have a chance.
It's wet my palate there. I mean, you just said it. I think Inter are very capable, and I think they will play very much like they played against Porto. Allow Benfica to have possession, hit them on the counterattack, play smart defensively. You're going to see smart Dumfries versus Dumfries. But yeah, I think Kyle makes a good point that Inzaghi and Inter do like these cup style competitions. Inzaghi seems to. I mean, he got Lazio getting their first win in the cup competition when he was there before he left. He seems to know how to manage these kind of games, and this suits up perfectly for the way Inter's strengths are, which is the counterattack and let the other team beat you. And I think Inter are good enough, whether they have a guy like Skriniar or whomever available. Even the team, the current setup they have now, I think if they play the way they played against Porto, I think very much so they can get a result in Lisbon and go back home and steal a win. I think it'll be an all-Italian semifinal. I do. I think Inter I feel much more confident that Inter will be successful than I do Milan. And a lot of it has to do with Napoli, of course, but I think Inter, no disrespect to Benfica, because they're a very good team. They could very much win the whole thing. But I think Inter are good enough defensively and have the talent offensively to catch them. And so I think, Inter move on, but ever so close.
Yep, I'm going to bang the drum for Italian football. Let's get that all-Italian semifinal. Let's go for Inter. So Napoli, Inter. And just for fun on the other side, I'll say it'll be Real Madrid and Manchester City. I just think Bayern are flaky enough.
That's cool. I'm going to go with Bayern. And
you're going to go Bayern, Real Madrid?
Yeah.
Just completely not being the Premier League. Yeah, that's the one. I'm still back and forth on Man City, Bayern. But I'm going to go with City to start for now. But, I mean, I could change my mind in a week. So, but I'm sure that Real Madrid are going to knock out Chelsea.
Real Madrid have to be the favorites, period.
Yep. I think they're the favorites to repeat this Champions League, the way they're set up and the way they play. So
good.
Now, the Europa League, there is a chance for an all-Italian final. It's going to take some doing. Juventus drew Sporting Lisbon. I hate this draw for Juventus. Yeah. Because if they survive that, then they get the winner of Man United Sevilla. Sporting Lisbon are really good. Should have been good enough to qualify for the net round of 16 of the Champions League. Would have taken them over Tottenham in a heartbeat, but Tottenham ended up beating them out for the second spot. Or actually ended up topping the group, and then it was Frankfurt in second. So Sporting Lisbon, Pedro Pote, Paulinho, Marcus Edwards. All of them great attacking, very strong attacking quality. They've got good defenders with Cortez. Adan as a goalkeeper can be really, really shaky. You can get there. You can get to him a little bit. I believe it's Esgaio who has been the guy who is Esgaio is the one who has replaced Pedro Porro and has been serviceable. So, and then Nuno Santos plays in the left wing back. So they play three in the back. They play a 3-4-2-1. And they're capable. They've got so many different players capable of scoring. St. Just is another very good player for them. I agree, Kyle. Thank you.
Yeah.
But this is a dangerous draw for Juve. Sporting Lisbon are a very strong team. They have a very strong Ugarte through the midfield, defends the midfield, holds, gives Pote some freedom there. Pedro Gonçalves or Pedro Pote, if you want to call him that. He goes either way. I think Vlahovic gets canceled out by Cortez. I think that if Di Maria is fit, he can be a problem. And I think that he can create some things. I think Kostic can cause some problems. Cuadrado. I think that they're gonna have to win with some width, and then they're to open up for Di Maria to be dangerous. I think Vlahovic gets canceled out by Cortez over this tie. Now, does that give Juventus enough attacking power to beat Sporting Lisbon over the course of 180 minutes? As much as I want to bang the drum for Italian football, my answer to this is going to be no. I think that Juve might win 1-0 at the J, but I think this goes back to Lisbon, and I think Sporting overtakes them there. Juve just don't have a good track. That's the other thing. Juve in Europe just don't have a good track record against the more unassuming teams in these knockout situations. Lyon, Ajax, Porto. Okay, these the kind of the next tier of European teams, but are still really good. And I hate this draw for Juve. But there's really nobody out of these 8 teams left in the Europa League. They're all very good teams. But I think there are some facets of what Sporting Lisbon have that are going to be a nightmare for Juventus to deal with. And while they might get something favorable in the first leg in Italy, I think that Sporting are too much for them in the second leg, and they'll go through.
Yeah, this is certainly a tough draw. I mean, like I said, this and the other draw for Roma are tough draws. Sporting, just as Benfica, just as Porto, these Portuguese clubs are so good, especially at home. And they got so much talent, young talent, at their disposal, and so it's a difficult ask, and you have to play stellar defensively. Luckily for Juventus, I think under Allegri, as of late, they've played very well. You're starting to see the emergence too of some of the youngsters, Fagioli, Meretti. You're seeing Gatti having a good performance in this one. Obviously, Danilo seems to be back to his old ways. Bremer's getting back to his old ways too, and then Rabiot seems to living off of his pre-World Cup, but continue through the World Cup hot streak, and it seems to continue on. He's just playing smarter all of a sudden, maybe a little bit more freedom than he had before, and it's showing with the style of play he has. Kostic has been very good for them. Cuadrado can always rely on him to come off of the bench and stuff like that. It's going to be difficult. They have to get a result at home, and then going to Sporting is going to be difficult. Now, I've countered against Juventus several times in this Europa League draw, and even the Champions League, but more so Europa League, and they've come through with flying colors, especially on the road, which I didn't expect. So I think it's about time I'm gonna back them on the road in this one. I think they move through, I think over 2 legs, I think they find a way to get through. It's not going to be easy, especially when you go to Sporting to Lisbon. But yeah, I could see a win by 2 goals in over aggregate. I think they certainly have the defense to do it.
Mhm.
The question is, can they get the goals? It's going to be hard to stop Sporting, no doubt about it. But I think Juventus is riding high at the moment. I'm gonna go with Max Allegri. As crazy as I am, I think they can find a way.
Okay. So we're split on that. We agree that Napoli go through. We agree that Inter go through. We're split on this. Feyenoord Roma. Okay, so Feyenoord's coming off of completely battering Shakhtar Donetsk. They're in first in the Eredivisie. A lot of attacking quality. Santiago up front. Johan Bach plays on there. Idrissi is another attacking option. And then through the midfield, Kokcu is a very talented midfielder. Yeah. They have some defenders there that I rate. Lutzarel Gertrauda. Remember that name. He plays right back. Dutch international. Got some very good defending qualities for a right back. Maybe not as good going forward. But somebody that could potentially neutralize Spinazzola when Spinazzola goes forward. Now, Feyenoord doesn't see a defense like Roma anywhere in the Eredivisie or over the course of 2 legs against Shakhtar Donetsk. And I think that Mourinho will set this team up to frustrate Feyenoord in the first leg. I think it goes score draw. I think it goes back to the Olimpico where Roma can win. Kudus plays for Ajax, yes. Anthony. But that's what I see. I see score draw in the first leg because I don't think they'll keep Feyenoord out. There's too much power there. But I do like Roma going back to the Olimpico and winning and getting to the semifinals of this competition where they'll face whoever wins between Leverkusen and Union Saint-Gilloise from Belgium, who, by the way, they're good.
Yeah.
Don't just look at them and say, "Oh, Belgium team." They
demolished a good Union Berlin.
They put Union Berlin to their sword, and I saw that game, and they've got some players. This Teddy Tuma, is it Tuma or Toima? I can't remember the midfielder. Decent little player, and then Boniface up front among some of the guys that they've got. So
and I give them the edge over Leverkusen, honestly.
Yeah, Leverkusen can be flaky in these kind of situations.
Yeah.
So.
This is an interesting tie with Feyenoord. I mean, Feyenoord, we know who they are. They're top of the Eredivisie, like you said. They're an attacking team, but they haven't faced a defensive team, like you said. I think it's going to be hard to stop Feyenoord. If anyone can do it, it's going to be Roma. I feel like I'm with you that I don't think they can stop Feyenoord from scoring, especially when Feyenoord's at home in Amsterdam or Netherlands. But I can see like a 2-1 road loss or something like that for Roma, but going back home and getting the goals they need and like maybe a 2-0 win or something like that. I see Roma getting through ever so tightly, but it's through defense, to your point. I think Feyenoord won't be prepared to play defense like this over 2 legs. Maybe one off, it's fine, but 2 legs under Mourinho at the Olimpico, it's gonna be a tall ask, I think. And Roma surprised me last round as well. I like Juventus. I wasn't so confident on them. I knew how good their defense can be in the league. Didn't expect it in Europe, and both teams, really surprised me. And I'm going to have to go with them this round. I think Roma will find a way over 2 legs to get past Feyenoord.
Yeah, so we agree on that. I think Roma have a good path to the final. Wouldn't you love to see Jose Mourinho getting Roma to the final to play Manchester United, his old club?
I would love to see Roma and Mourinho against Juventus.
Well, I'd love to see that.
But yeah,
I'm predicting Juve to go out to Sporting Lisbon. So
we all know Sevilla's going to win this whole thing, right?
Yep.
They're in it.
Well, because that's what they do. Sevilla come to the Europa League and they win it. So
yeah.
And then finally the Conference League. Fiorentina draws Lech Poznan from Poland. I expect them to win handily over Lech Poznan to get to the semifinals, and then it becomes very interesting where they play the winner of Basel and Nice. And then the final would be anyone of Ghent, West Ham United, Anderlecht, or AZ Alkmaar. So that's Fiorentina's path for the Europa League. Van Nistelrooy coaches PSV. Anthony's over 2 on the Eredivisie knowledge, but I mean Anthony brings it though, so I don't play. I'll give him a pass for that. Feyenoord, who does manage Feyenoord? We're gonna look that up.
Ik weet het niet.
Who?
I don't know.
Oh,
I said I don't know in Dutch.
Okay. It's very close to German. I know German is ich weiß nicht.
Ich weiß es nicht. Yeah. It is very close. Yeah, no, I think Fiorentina, Lech Poznan, I think Fiorentina, I mean, we shouldn't be down to them, right? They've been doing so well here in Europe, much more so than Serie A, even though they've been doing well in Serie A lately as well. I do think they're going to get by Lech Poznan. I don't know if I'm as confident as you saying it's going to be I think you said easily or whatever. But I think Fiorentina does find a way to get past Lech Poznan. Yes, Feyenoord did beat Ajax recently, but yeah, I think Fiorentina against
Arne Slot.
Okay, didn't know that. But yeah, the Basel Nice winner is going to be interesting, I think, for Fiorentina, and that's going to be a tactical game where I think Vincenzo Italiano is really going to have to bring it. I think they can get by Lech Poznan. Obviously, going to Poznan is going to be difficult, but
that'll be the tough one for them.
But I think I agree with you. I think they can find a way to get through these 2 legs here.
Yep. So, do they go all the way to the final? Do they overcome whoever wins between Basel and Nice? I think Nice will give them a difficult go.
Yeah. Vincenzo Italiano will have to put on a technical masterclass to get by the winner of Basel and Nice.
Yeah, and I like Nice. I like Nice in that one over Basel.
Yeah.
So we'll
Anthony,
see.
Dominic asked a good question. Between Mourinho and Conte, whose meltdowns are more spectacular?
Wow.
Depends how you define spectacular.
Look, I don't see. Here's the thing. I think Conte melts down way more than Mourinho does. I think Mourinho sulks when he doesn't really melt down. He just sulks. But I think but Mourinho's definitely capable of just kind of trash talking his way through an adverse question or something like that, or even life. Yeah. So. I mean, the classic was when he was with Inter and then they had to play Chelsea in the Champions League. Did you ever see that presser that he did?
Yeah.
That was gold. And then he's like, what do you say? I've gone, Chelsea moved on. I moved on. I went on and I won many things and Chelsea won something.
Yeah.
And then after that, he's just sitting back and eating biscuits.
Of the 2, he has the best sound bites. He does.
Yeah.
I think Conte has meltdowns where he's just like, crying, complaining, ultimately costing his job. And Mourinho, like I said, he's sulking a lot, but he's so funny in his interviews. He has the best one-liners ever. One of the classic memes by him is I prefer not to speak or I'll get in trouble. It just
if I speak,
so much more entertaining. If I speak, I'll be in trouble. So it's just classic. Mourinho. I love Mourinho for that. They both have their way of complaining, I guess.
Yeah. It's Conte. I think Conte just melts down more.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it sounds like he's on the way out and he's going to be available to whoever wants to take a chance on him now. So, somebody with a budget. Because he's going to want to buy people. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that all pans out for him. So that is our breakdown of the European draws. I think overall. Couldn't be happier for Serie A and the situation that we're in. We have some teams here that are in positions to go deep into their respective competitions. You and I just differ on Juve. I think they'll go out at this stage to Sporting. I respect the Sporting Lisbon team a lot. But I also see a path where Juve can go through. So I'm not totally going to discount it. So anyway. So that's our draw. Let's go through the Azzurri and talk this Italy-England game here, Richard. Let's first talk the selection that will be available to Roberto Mancini for the matches against England and Malta. The goalkeepers, Gianluigi Donnarumma, Falcone of Lecce, Alex Meret of Napoli, and then Provedel of Lazio. I think the only debate I have here is why take 4.
Who would you leave out?
That's probably what Mancini was thinking.
I say it's time.
I think you'd leave out Falcone because I think that while he's been admirable and he's had a really good season for Lecce, it has kind of dipped for him a little bit of late, and that would be, but boy, that would be harsh on Falcone. To be fair,
imagine Conte at PSG. My goodness, oh my God, people will be leaving that team left and right. I wouldn't mind, and maybe this is unpopular opinion, but I wouldn't mind Meret over Donnarumma in goal
to start.
Yeah, I think Donnarumma making too many mistakes lately, bad mistakes.
You might see that too. You never know.
Yeah, I think Moret's been playing fantastic this year. I mean, I like Provedel too, but not more than Meret. I think give Meret a chance. And what the hell? Why not?
But Mancini, by and large, in certain areas,
he's stubborn.
He has stuck with a lot of tried and trusted. I mean, Nations League, he was forced to do different things with his attack when it just wasn't working. I mean, because it was shortly after they failed to qualify for the World Cup. He was forced to do something different, and it worked. But the only thing I can say is that we don't know if it would have worked in the World Cup qualifiers or not because he didn't use it. So people have said, well, if he would have he got to the Nations League semifinals, if he would have done this, they'd be in the World Cup. No, we don't know that.
No.
So we don't live in the world of what ifs. So, it's what it is. So, defenders, Francesco Serbi, well deserved. Leonardo Bonucci for some reason. Buongiorno from Torino gets in. I like him. Torino, right? Yeah, Torino. I better like him if I know what team he's on. So, Matteo Darmian, Giovanni Di Lorenzo, Federico Di Marco, Alessio Romagnoli, Giorgio Scalvini, Spinazzola, great to see him back in the team, and Rafael Toloi. Rafael Toloi, after having his ankles broken by Kvaratskhelia, still gets in this team. But there's
can't start over him.
There's no room for Nico Casale. If you want to take out somebody for Casale, you take out Toloi. Boom. I don't know how you put him in this team after that happened.
Yeah, that's unreal.
But otherwise, what do you think of the defenders?
Overall, it's not a bad lineup. Again, I think the two weaknesses for me are Bonucci and Toloi. I can see why Bonucci gets called up. Toloi, I really can't see why. And I agree with you. I think Casale should get a deserved call up. And I think I wouldn't mind, like I said earlier, I wouldn't mind seeing Romagnoli and Casale. They've done so well for Lazio this season, in particular of late. Why not give them a chance? One of the best defenses in the league. Give them a chance. And what's the worst that can happen? Maybe in a game against England, maybe not so much. Cherby's been playing really well lately as too. Good to see Di Lorenzo out there. So yeah, there's some good teams. I wouldn't mind to see Di Lorenzo and Di Marco on the wings there. But I'm curious who they pair with. I'm assuming a Cherby in the middle, or if they go with the back 3 or back 4. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, yeah, Bonucci just out of seniority and the need for some leadership in the dressing room, but Toloi, I can't do it. I can't be on board with that, but who knows? Midfielders: Nicola Barella, Brian Cristante, Davide Fratese, Jorginho, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Matteo Pessina, Sandro Tonali, Marco Verratti. That's pretty straightforward. I don't know who can crack that out of the midfielders in Italy.
I don't necessarily like Pessina. He's having an okay season with Monza right now. But
Locatelli, maybe.
I've heard the shots for maybe a Fagioli or a Minetti.
Not ready yet.
I don't think they should start. There's obviously not going to start, but give us an experience there. I mean, Pellegrini, Tonali, Verratti, Jorginho, Barella, they're all starting before this guys. But what about to see him in there over like Pessina? I mean, Pessina has done some things, but I think he's again one of those guys that Mancini is stubborn, likes to bring his old tried and true. I haven't seen anything from Pessina that warrants a call up, much like Toloi, or Bonucci, but no, I'm not Mancini, so.
Okay. And then the attackers, Berardi, Chiesa, Gnonto, Grifo, Pafundi, Politano, Retegui, and Scamacca. Okay, so we talked about Zaccagni. I think another guy that you could take out to bring in Zaccagni is Scamacca. He hardly plays for West Ham.
Yeah.
Pafundi and Retegui would not be anywhere near this team if Raspadori was fit, because he's the guy that kind of came on as the 9 for Italy in the Nations League games when they had to make those changes. He was scoring goals. But other than that, thoughts on the attackers?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about the guys who are out of this lineup. I think overall, I mean, Berardi's obviously having a fine season. Chiesa just coming off injury. Gnonto is a guy who last go around was probably one of the bright spots of the team, right? Politano's done really well for Napoli this season, as you mentioned. Good to see Retegui, to see what he can do. I agree about the Scamacca comment. I agree about the Fundi. And just some guys that are missing that I think should get a nod. And it's again, Mancini too stubborn. He likes to go with the tried and true, and I get that, but you've obviously had some trials and tribulations recently. Stop going with the tried and true. Go with somebody different. Find a new formula. I'm glad you got Vincenzo Grifo there because he's probably the most talented of the group outside of maybe Berardi. But there's some guys you're missing in here, and this is a surprise. I can't understand why. I mean, if they beat England, I will be shocked.
Who's the 9? I mean, that's the question here.
Maybe it's a false 9. Maybe it's a false 9.
They might have to,
unless it's Scamacca.
If you play,
is Raspadori injured?
Yeah, he is. He's not available. Okay. So it's almost probably going to be Scamacca starting. You might see Gnonto. You have to play. I think you have to play Chiesa on the left, and I think you have to play Berardi on the right. I don't think you can false 9 either of those guys.
I wouldn't mind Grifo on the left, just because Chiesa's maybe give him a chance to get healthy.
Yeah, you could see that too. You could see Chiesa, and Chiesa might be a candidate for that false 9 role.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest question: who steps in and plays the 9 here against England? And let's talk about that game. I mean, I haven't looked at England's team.
I'm looking for it right now. Oh, here that's U17.
But you have to expect. All right, I got it too.
All right, I got it here. Oh, didn't want to show that, but
so they're at Italy, and then they host Ukraine in their second game. They're showing a lot of people in practicing. I'm trying to get to their team.
So goalkeepers: Fraser Forster, Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale. Decent season group there. Obviously, Pickford will probably be the main starter there.
Pickford will start. Ramsdale might take, but I think
Arsenal. Yeah,
Southgate's been using Pickford.
Chilwell, Dyer. I wonder if Dyer is injured or not. Guehi, Reece James, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, Kieran Trippier, and Kyle Walker in defense. Solid defense. Midfield: Jude Bellingham, very talented. Conor Gallagher, Jordan Henderson, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice. Interesting. It's solid midfield.
Going to probably be Bellingham and Rice there in a double pivot.
Yeah, that's not a bad shot there. And then Phil Foden, Grealish, Kane, James Madison, Bukayo Saka, and Ivan Toney. Look at Ivan Toney finally getting a call up after the mistakes not calling him up earlier. So I mean, it's a decent attack as well. Yeah, it's a good team overall.
Yeah, it is. You gotta, priority 1 is defending Kane out of the game, which I think they can do. But then, excuse me, Saka's a danger. I think he's much better. He's become a much better player since the last time Italy saw England at the Euros in the final when Saka missed the penalty. So there's he's dynamic. Grealish causes a lot of problems. Foden, is Mount in the team or no?
No, he's not.
He's not. Okay. So you got to think Foden's going to start, and some of that playmaking is going to come from him. Chilwell could, if they play a back four, Chilwell could be playing left back, with Kyle Walker playing right back as kind of the fullback that stays home to deal with what's coming. Just trying to gauge an idea of how England are going to line up and come at us. I think this game could be a grind, because I don't think Southgate's teams really go out and score a lot of goals. I mean, there's a couple of games in there at the World Cup The game against Iran, obviously, where they went off, but then after that, I don't think they scored more than 1 or 2 goals in a game.
No. In qualifiers, they scored a lot, but against the smaller teams,
Yeah, they'll score a lot against the smaller teams. I don't think
Odoji is a good shot. I wouldn't mind to see Odoji with the Azzurri. Honestly, I think he's
sure,
not necessarily starting, but definitely on the team.
Sure, I think this game's a draw. And I'll even say this: I think this game has 0-0 written all over it. First game out of the blocks. First game out of the blocks. First game these two teams are together in a camp in 4 months? Well, the World Cup for England, but Italy longer than that.
Kyle says he thinks Italy can control the midfield versus England.
I don't hate that sentiment. I'm just trying to figure out where the goals are going to come without having our better nines available. I mean, I think Chiesa can create something, but Aida could create something. Certainly, Spinazzola back in the mix is an interesting thought. But I just feel like these two are going to just feel each other out. Go for and 0-0 is going to. While they would love to win the game, neither of them are going to complain about getting out of there 0-0 either. So, and that's where I'm going.
You'd expect England to play with maybe a 4-2-3-1, like you said, Bellingham and maybe Rice in the middle there.
But they've played some 3 in the back too. So.
Yeah. They got to load the attack. I mean, their attack is where their money is right there. I think they can have the Azzurri on the wing backs. Guys like Kyle Walker and company. I think they can create some damage on the wings. I do think I do think the Azzurri's midfield is better and they can control them. However, I think the wing play and then get into the attack. I fear the attack against the defense. The defense is okay, and I'm curious. I have this belief that Mancini is going to stick to his tried and true, and that's never going to work. As of late, it hasn't worked, and so that's what worries me. If he tries to think outside the box and actually play players who fit the system and are in form, I think there's a good chance there's to be a good draw in this game. But I don't think he can do that until he convinces me. I think England find a way to win something like 2-0 or something. I don't have a good feeling about this game, honestly.
I think Foden, Kane, and Saka will be the starters up front, a 3-man up front, and then it's going to come down to whether or not Southgate plays 4 in the back or whether he plays 3 in the back.
Yeah.
That's going to be the only. I mean, against France, he played a 4-3-3. Let's look against Senegal. He played a 4-3-3, and it was Bellingham, Rice, and Henderson. So we could certainly see the same thing again. The only other option is that if he plays a 3-4-3, Walker, Stones, Maguire make up that back 3, decides to play Rice and Bellingham in the middle, and then Reece James and Chilwell on the wing backs is something like that with the same 3 up front. So, but I'm going with a draw. I don't think England come to. This game's in Naples too. It's at the Maradona. I don't see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm going 0-0 here. I think if there's a winner, it's going to be Italy, very narrow, 1-0. But 0-0 feels more appropriate to me for a couple of national teams that are heavy hitters that have to play each other right off the bat and haven't been together, in England's case 3 months, in Italy's case longer than that.
Yeah, I think that both teams will be content with a 1-1 draw.
Yep. So a draw in some case. So those are our thoughts. And now we move on to the world's most popular hashtag game, Richard. Who won Calcio Twitter?
I guess I got to get ready for this then, huh? There we go.
Start with Yanimal.
There it is.
I think the entry before that from March 14th was sensitive content. So
okay. I'm there with you. So it's Yanimal with Milan Labs, and it's someone beating someone's leg and trying to injure them.
That was one of my favorite WWE moments when Austin hit McMahon with that bedpan.
Yeah.
That was great. Okay, at Totti's armband. Goodbye, Lazio. Lazio director Elitare Blast Roma. The Conference League is for losers like them.
Actually, was this the one where he pretended to be Europa League, or was this not? I don't think maybe it wasn't.
This was back when Roma was in making the deep run in the Conference League.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Apex pointed us in the direction of this one. This one comes from Don Costa Rica lover, and it's at Inter is in my soul. Let Pioli cook. He's going to bring Milan to the Champions League final and prove his haters wrong. The cooking. Oh,
disgusting.
oh, ugh. No, thank you.
Oh no, I'll just certain cultures. I mean, you know, people can be what they want. I mean, there's certain things I'm willing to try. I'm not trying that.
Me neither.
Okay, at Nemaser, is that what we're calling this?
Yep. Yeah.
How I've been watching Milan games lately. just keeping the blanket over it or the towel over it, and then just kind of popping up for an occasional peek.
All right, next up, Paris niche, and it's with the old rock. It's a WWE theme here. It's Milan using their UCL aura to stop Udinese from scoring. I command you to stop. Does not work.
We've got at Alessio Tackle. Been a while since we heard from him. Life as a Milan fan. The masculine urge to say we're shit 10 minutes after saying we're back, 10 minutes after saying we're shit.
All right. Moving on, the Napoli rant, and it says Italian authorities report airspace in Italy is now owned by Victor Osimhen.
Okay. Okay. At Napoleonismo, Juve players this season.
Okay, praying, I guess.
Not sure where he's going with that one. We've had better efforts from Napoleonismo.
Oh, that's funny. All right, next one up. It's Victor V. Strandberg 9. It's Juventus highlights 2022-23.
Dominating when they
Handball.
win a turnover around the middle of the field.
Using their hands to get down the field.
Got scores from 4 kickouts.
Peter Cook with his first score of the championship 2019. And driving at the goal defense.
Vlahovic,
He's still going. Another chance.
That's great. I think that's our leader in the clubhouse right now.
That's the leader right there.
All right, moving on. This is from Sandro S. 1915. Leandro Paredes que entra al minuto 80. Thank you, Deep. Inter Juve.
Lukaku. With the old Steve Austin coming down there. So
yeah.
Oh, that's good. Sandro. All right, that's up there.
That's a good one.
This was nominated from Art Morelli and says, I was geographically raised in Toronto, but culturally my upbringing reflected the working class communities in Calabria, Puglia, and Sicilia, from weekly match days to the expectation that we should win every match, even Birmingham, as Juventino. That's funny. That's funny. It's Juventini in Italy, or I guess Canada.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, who is the best up-and-coming manager in football? And they've got Roberto De Zerbi as among the choices because, of course, the British pundits only hear of these guys when they come to the Premier League. So,
my goodness.
I think Sandro wins.
Sandro, okay.
It's between Sandro and V. Strandberg.
Oh, it's so good. The only thing that made it better if there's the Ambrosio. The first guy was.
I kind of like the Leandro. I kind of like the Paredes thing, but you know.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Take the time to get the faces in there.
Yeah. It's a creativity. I'll give it to. Okay, creativity wins it. Okay.
All right.
Like
we'll go with that as our winner. Anthony, thanks for nominating that and bringing that to our attention. So, all right. So I will go ahead and do that. You go ahead and speak to the people a little bit.
People. No, first I want to give some shout outs. I already talked about, 60 Minutes piece on Rocco Comiso. Definitely go check that out if you're here in the States. I don't know who else has access to 60 Minutes, but definitely check it out. It's a good piece on Rocco Comiso, talking about his, his upbringing, how he came to own Fiorentina, and, his thoughts on that. Also, shout out to Georgetown University women's team. They went and visited Atalanta a couple weekends ago when they played Udinese. Good to get the did a little nice tour of Italy, but also got to go to the game at Atalanta and met the general manager and everything like that. So good for Georgetown University to get the women's game out there. Shout out to Just Juve, our friend Beppe. He interviewed Manuel Locatelli after the game, after Derby d'Italia. Obviously, they're in excitement after beating Juventus, or excuse me, beating Inter. But no, that's great to see that interview with Manuel Locatelli. It's in Italian for those who don't understand. Find captions or whatever you want. And then last shout out to Sven-Goran Eriksson. He was at the Derby d'Italia. Obviously, a former Lazio manager there, partaking in the win of Lazio in that one. So good to see him in the crowd. He seems very healthy, so good for him.
Okay, lots to cover there. I really don't have anything. Just enjoy the international break, everybody.
Yes,
we're going to take next week off, and we'll be back the following week when the culture resumes. So enjoy the England game, enjoy the Malta game, and we'll talk it up after we're through all of that. So we'll put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down. I'm going to get a little more in depth on the draw of these European teams for the website on Serie A Sit Down as soon as I can sit down and write it up. So, and then I might have a couple of other random thoughts as I start getting some blogging going. So check us out on that website, www.serieasitdown.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. Okay, so we're going to start to get some content more populated on there. So, and we'll have that for you here soon. So. We're going to put a bow on this edition of Serie A Sit Down. We have our own channel on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, wherever there's podcasts, there's Serie A Sit Down. You can follow me at FTC_21 on Twitter. You can follow Richard for grooming advice at R_KHARMAN on Twitter. You just randomly did that, or what was that all about?
Who knows? Never know with me. Never know with me.
So
it's like Milan.
At Serie A Sit Down on Twitter or Instagram with any comments, questions, thoughts, topics you want us to hit up on future podcasts. Talk to us there. Talk to us at Facebook if you want. We don't check that very often anymore. Now that I've had my birthday and have had to just like everybody's birthday wish, I can stop looking at it. And here on Serie A Sit Down on our YouTube channel, if you were watching this for the first time and enjoyed the content, or if you didn't enjoy the content, put a like anyway and subscribe anyway. Hit the notification bell so that you can be alerted as to when we go live on the air, if we have any other kind of random video drops, because we will do that too. So that is it. Enjoy the international break. Enjoy the Azzurri. And hopefully we can get off to a 6-point start here, although I think it'll be a 4-point start personally. But we shall see. Otherwise, for Richard, I'm Frank. And as always, make sure you tell your paisans about us. Ciao.